Greetings, everyone. My name is Darren Keim. This is the Naked Eye Media Podcast and vlog. I just wanted to talk this week about something that's a big word right now. That word is freedom. It's going around in the news. There's the battle of freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom to protest. There's a lot of freedom that is being discussed and argued over. Is it good to have freedom? Is it dangerous to have full freedom? There's a big debate on that right now. But I want to take things a little bit deeper and look at what this discussion is, I think, really hinging on. If we go deeper into what freedom is, I want to talk about some of the things that I feel like are really ruling us right now as a society and probably individually. It's hard to not be ruled by a few things that if we could be free from them, then I think that we would be able to see so much clearer and be able to come up with solutions that could help everyone. So the main thing that I want to focus on with freedom is within your thoughts. We have thoughts within us, mindsets, expectations, assumptions. A lot of things go through our minds on a regular basis, and they control us or they dictate for us what our lives will look like. But the biggest one, I think, that has our minds caught right now is a little thing called fear. People are afraid right now, and there's good reason to be afraid. There's this thing called the coronavirus going on right now. Depending on what your race is, if you watch the media and you see things like the George Floyd killing, there's a lot of people in the Black community that are afraid that this is what life looks like, seeing somebody of their skin color being killed in the streets, and then they wonder, is this because of my skin color that they're being killed? So I want to go through a few things that go deeper than circumstances. They go deeper than ideas. They go deeper than feelings. Actually, they influence those things. I'm going to talk about a few really big items that I just want you to picture a world where if you were free from all of these things, what would your outlook on reality be like? The list of things, I call them the overlords. The overlords are a set of higher level feelings and thoughts that we have that control basically everything that we do if we aren't aware of them and their presence in our life. The overlords are fear, guilt, pride, expectations, purpose, and discontent. So I'm going to just go through each of these and discuss how they kind of play into our lives and how they influence the decisions that we make on a day-to-day basis. And I want to also preemptively just say, before we go through them, that there is a way to be free of these things. And I would like to point you guys to that. And I also want to make mention of the fact that these vlogs are things that help me to learn things for myself as well. I'm not just up here saying things to talk to other people like I've got them figured out. A lot of the times when I do these, I'm basically talking out loud, speaking as if I'm speaking to a crowd of people, but really the only crowd that I'm speaking to is myself. And I'm kind of giving myself a run through of thoughts that don't ever really get expressed. And I think that that's how it is for a lot of us. We've got thoughts in our minds, and they don't ever really see the light of day, but they subconsciously control us. So sometimes it's good to talk things out. I think that's why it's very important to have conversation. And I think that in this era where we're able to do podcasts and vlogs and actually talk longer than a 30-second or 2-minute soundbite like what you see on the news about somebody's feelings on something, this actually gives a fuller body of context to the actual situation so you can process things more accurately. So with that being said, this stuff is for me and it's for you, it's for anybody. This is some stuff that I think that once you at least tackle it, you can start to wade your way through it for yourself and see where it leads you. So the point of this again is freedom. And I want to give you a list of thought patterns that if we can be free from them, what would that look like in life? So before we can get free from them, let's actually talk about what some of them are and get them out into the air, get them out into the open space so that you can start to process through them. So the first one, as I've said, is fear. So imagine if you were free from fear, if you were living in freedom from fear. What comes with fear? There are a few underlings, I guess you'd say, to the overlords, that each of these overlords kind of manifest in lesser levels, or they delineate out into different feelings that are kind of under the umbrella title or the hierarchy head of these overlords. So the overlord of fear, some of the things that branch off of fear: insecurity, worry, anxiety. If you are afraid, you have reason to worry about something. If you are afraid, you are insecure. You don't feel safe. That can then lead to anxiety because you don't know what the next step will be. Fear. Fear dictates what you say and what you do when you're around your friends, when you're around your family, when you're at work, when you're driving, when you're by yourself. And as somebody that has dealt with fear and definitely all of these things, worry, insecurity, anxiety, these are things that will plague you when you're by yourself. Sometimes when everything gets quiet and there's nobody else around, that's when these things show up the most. And, in this COVID era where everything is on lockdown, wow. Talk about a level of, solitude in which it's you sitting around with your thoughts. For me, I live by myself right now. And living by myself, I've had to learn, hey, there's a ton of thoughts that go through my head. What thoughts are beneficial to me in living a life full of joy and peace and happiness? Are there certain thoughts and things that I'm thinking that are hindering me from having that? So ultimately, what do I really want? Do I want a life that allows fear and its presence to be there at every waking moment, every turn, everything that I'm doing or thinking or saying? Is it tinged by that element of fear? I've become very vigilant at understanding how to recognize when something is dictated by fear or if it's dictated by the opposite, which is confidence, security, certainty, peace. Peace is definitely an opposite of fear. I think the ultimate opposite of fear is love, but we're going to get into that stuff a little bit later. So fear can bring about all of these things. Right now, fear is making people dislike one another because we're afraid that they don't agree with us on topics, whatever that topic might be, whether it be politics, religion, race issues. Fear is sprouting up. Our media in our country does not help. Media, I think, actually stokes fear. And the reason I think that that works for them is when you're afraid of something, you want to find a solution inside. Subconsciously, you're watching something on the news and you're afraid, but you're hoping that in the end it resolves. I think we can get caught in the loop of fear though. But I want to go on to the next one. I want to go on to guilt. In guilt, we find regret. We find within regret, you're asking yourself constantly what I did or didn't do. And those things bring about regret. Looking back on something, it could be from years ago. I remember for a long time, I'd look back on something stupid that I said or that I did in like junior high. I'm 40 years old now. It's like, at what point do you let go of something that you did 20 plus years ago? At some point, you've got to let this stuff go and understand that this guilt is something that is real, but is it necessary for you in your life right now? So, another thing that is under the overlord of guilt, accusations. Now, I'm not talking about accusations against anybody else. I'm talking about accusations against yourself. When you are feeling guilty, you make accusations about something that you did. Were you pure or impure in your motives in whatever you did? And sometimes we can look on something and contemplate it, and we can feel really shitty about ourselves. We feel like, no, man, I was impure on that. When I'm honest with myself, wow, I'm a piece of shit for doing that. That is called accusing yourself. Saying, no, this is what you did. And we can be our best record keepers. So we accuse ourselves of our impurities. And then along with that is another feeling of judgment. We judge ourselves, and if our intentions were pure or impure, then sometimes that can make us maybe good or evil. Tell you what, if you feel like you're evil all the time, and you just sit on that, you're setting yourself up for a place inside of your head that you allow to stay there. And again, that will influence how you live your life, what you do when you're going out and interacting with other people, and how much you just enjoy anything that you're doing. If you're feeling guilty about something, guilt is not a fun feeling to carry around with you. I want to go on to the next one. The next overlord, pride. Now, the word pride, I think, is attached very well with the word ego. Pride is one of the biggest ones. Pride is something that will make you do something that isn't beneficial to you, or it will prevent you from doing something that is ultimately beneficial to you. Right now, again, in this climate, we get into arguments, we get into debates with people that turn into shouting matches, or that sometimes, depending on what you see on the news or on YouTube or Twitter, they escalate into physical violence. These are all basically symptoms of pride, where we feel like our ego has been disrespected or that it's being threatened. I think that the latter, that your ego being threatened, is more the issue than anything. If I'm heavily debating with somebody and it's getting heated and I'm getting worked up over it, the reason I'm getting worked up is because I really want to prove that I'm right. Why do I need to prove that I'm right? If I don't even know for certain that I am right, I just think that I am, my ego still wants to be proven right. There's something about it, about the pride of it, that will essentially make you put your fingers in your ears when other people are talking. and just so you can get in the next sentence as soon as possible to shout over them and show them why you're right. I'm absolutely guilty of this, and I've done it with people that I respect a lot, and I regret doing it. One of those things, going back to the guilt, the regret of allowing my pride to, and my ego, my reputation to be put ahead of caring about another person's feelings, to the extent where maybe I'm not even listening to what they're saying anymore. Maybe I'm overlooking something that they said that is actually true, and I'm just shouting it down because I want to be right. That's ego related. And those things can hurt you more than help you. Especially right now with, again, coming back to COVID. Here's a great example of it. Hydroxychloroquine. We don't know for certain that it works 100% of the time on every single person. However, it feels like it's one of those things where if you say, I think that it could work for some people, that is something where I found myself doing this, and I don't think it's necessary, but my ego wants to fight really hard for it to be right. Now, on the other side of that, if you're somebody that, depending on what your political persuasion is, and it sucks that something like medication has become political, but it has. If you're somebody that really despises Donald Trump and you don't like anything that he has to say, and he says that hydroxychloroquine works, and if you are somebody in your ego, you're like, no, I'm not listening to a thing that guy has to say. I'm not going to be one of those people that believes in these conspiracy theories, that this miracle drug, this cure-all. And so say that you are within the range, according to the recent studies that have come out, which suggest that if you catch it early enough, hydroxychloroquine can be effective if you've got very mild symptoms. In the first 24 to 48 hours, you take hydroxychloroquine, there are some good studies that indicate that it can help you. But what if you are so intent on not listening to the possibility of that because you don't want to be one of those conspiracy theorists that say you don't even want to look into what the evidence is for it? That can be something where your ego is hurting you. Your ego is actually holding you back from getting something that you ultimately want. Let's go with another one. Okay, so I have a girlfriend right now. I love the girl. She's awesome. But I've been single prior to dating her for a really long time. And I've always wanted to, while I was single, I think most people, for the most part, they don't just want to keep being single. They want to find that one person, somebody that can make them happy. In my single life, I'd go out, and when I'm out with my friends, say that you're at a bar or something, or say that you're at the grocery store, anywhere, and say that somebody comes along that you walk past, pretty girl that you don't know anything about, and the opportunity it presents itself where you could say something, but because of my ego not wanting to look stupid or look like that guy that hits on that girl just at some random place, I don't say anything. And I would go through periods of this where it's like, I don't know, at church, at the grocery store, out and about, many times where it's like, did I pass up an opportunity? I guess I'll never know, because my ego was holding me back from opening my mouth and just even being friendly and saying hi, because I was so afraid that I would look a particular way. Nobody else is saying that I'm going to look a particular way other than myself. I have no idea what she might be thinking, this random girl. She might be interested. I don't know, because my ego is getting in my way. And so that's another example of how pride can hurt us. Let's look at a couple others. Pride has to do with approval of others. I guess that could work for that example that I just gave. It's like I want to look good in this potential female's eyes to the extent that I don't say anything because I'm trying to keep my pride. Think about that. I'm hurting myself directly because I'm trying to not hurt myself. I'm trying to not hurt my ego. So in attempting to look good, I don't say anything. And I'm trying to look good in her eyes. I'm trying to get self-approval, so I don't say anything, and then I never know what happened. Let's go with another one under pride, jealousy. You know, you can be doing your thing, and all that it takes is 1 second where you're, now say that you're dating somebody, and say that they talk to somebody, and what if they do that in a way that, like, messes with your ego? All of a sudden, you're feeling jealous about it. You're feeling jealous about their interaction with somebody else. It's threatening you. Does it need to? That's the question. So, freedom from pride. Think about that. All right, the next one, expectations. Freedom from expectations. And this goes back again, I'll tie it into that last one. I have expectations that I'm going to look a certain way if I do something. I don't know if these expectations are even true, and yet I cling to them. I have expectations about life. I have expectations about people that have different political beliefs than I do. I have expectations about if I try to do something and that if it doesn't work after a few times that I've done it, then I guess that's just the end of everything, and I might as well just stop doing it ever again because my expectations haven't been met. And after only a few times, if they haven't been met, then I just start to then, the next part, assume that there's something about reality that doesn't allow me to get the thing that I truly want within my spirit. So, expectations comes with the feeling of failure when you don't meet whatever your expectations are. So you walk around feeling like a failure all the time. These are assumptions that may or may not be true. Your expectations are assumptions about life that may or may not be true. So you judge the world, you judge others, you judge yourself according to these expectations. When they're not met, they can lead to depression. They can lead to bitterness. So these are all things that are swirling around expectations. Imagine if you were free from expectations. Okay, I've got two more. Purpose. We all want to feel like we've got a purpose in life. We want to feel like there's significance to what we're doing. We want to feel like there's meaning. These things are good to have purposes, and we all want to find them. But what if you are lost in say that you aren't able to find that? You're left in a void of what is my purpose? I would say that purpose might even be something that fits underneath the umbrella of fear again. What if I can't find that purpose? What am I doing? Do I amount to anything? These are all things that are swirling around in your head at any given time, any given day. One more overlord. Discontent. Discontent is something that no matter what you're doing, no matter where you're at, you can be living in a state of being where you're saying, I will not be happy until or unless. Or you might be saying, I will only be happy if or when. All the while, you are holding peace and joy and happiness at ransom. You're basically not allowing yourself to experience those things here and now, because your here and now does not include that thing, X, Y, or Z. And so you're in a state of discontent because of it. So now that I went through those overlords, those things that we deal with inside of our minds that often control us and dictate how life feels for us. I want you to think about all of those things, whatever they are. What are the big things that you struggle with, that you carry around in your mind on a regular basis? Now, as you think about that, think about who you are. Think about everything that really matters to you. What if you took all of those things, everything about you, your very identity itself, and what if you just deleted it? What is left after you delete that big ball of thought pattern and neural pathways that have been fueling your life up until now, till this very moment? If you delete all of it, your head is completely clear. What does that look like? Let's say that you are free from fear. What would you do in the absence of fear? What would you pursue? What would you attempt? What if, in the absence of an ego that has pride, that's standing there and saying, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to look this way. I'm not going to look foolish. If you laid that down, what would you do in the absence of that need to protect your reputation, that need to protect your ego? What if there was no fear, would your ego feel threatened? Would you need to win every argument? At the end of the day, if you knew that none of that stuff mattered, would winning an argument matter for your ego? You're basically sacrificing your ego so it wouldn't matter. So I want to take this, I'm going to get a little bit religious. Now, I know that a lot of my friends that might be watching this right now do not believe in God, and I respect that. And I think that what I'm going to share is a psychological thing for those of you that don't see the spiritual significance of it. But I want to talk about something that Jesus said. Jesus said that if you lose your life for my sake, you will find it. And a lot of people are like, well, what does that mean? What I think that means is that everything that we just talked about, everything that I went over, these overlords, these thought processes, everything that we carry with us like baggage, walking around with it. If you lose that, lose your life, the thing that you say, no, this is my life. If you lose all of that for my sake, when Jesus is talking about my sake, let's figure out what his sake is. You need to understand something about Jesus. Jesus is speaking the words, the very words of the Holy Spirit flowing through him. So the spirit that you feel within you, this is something that I believe that God can impact on a daily, regular basis with his spirit, the Holy Spirit. And that shows up in certain things that are deeper or more beyond what our own thoughts and our impression of our life is. I think it shows up more in things like virtues. So it talks in the Bible about the fruits of the Spirit being love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, self-control. These are all like higher virtues that at any given point, instead of holding on to an identity that you say is your own, you are able to lay down that identity for the sake of taking up higher virtues. When you feel like you want to be right and you want to prove somebody wrong, and instead you speak in the language of love or patience and peace. And you speak these things into your life and you let them flow from you. Suddenly you find that you stepped outside of your own life. You stepped outside of yourself and you found a bigger, better life, a bigger, better existence. Now, you can call it psychological and say, hey, these are good psychological tools. That's cool. If it helps you to feel better psychologically, then that's still better than going around carrying around these destructive thoughts that dictate for you, that put you in a box and say that you must live your life according to these parameters that you've set up your whole life, that are built off of expectations and assumptions that may or may not even be true. Erase all of it. Delete all of it. And try to meditate on some of these deeper virtues. See if you may find a deeper life than the one that you have, that you claim as your own. As a believer in the Holy Spirit being a real active thing, I believe that those virtues don't come from me. They come from something deeper. And I find them when I get into my spirit, into my soul. That's the place where I would say that Christ resides within me. Take that for what it's worth, but practice those virtues, whether you agree with God or believe in God or not. Watch what happens when people are being hateful towards you, and instead of responding to hate with hate, you respond to it with love. You will extinguish hate with love. You will not extinguish hate with more hate. You will breed more hate with hate. I want to share something with you from a book. This book right here. My buddy wrote this book. I went to high school with him. One of my best friends in high school. 40 Days of Increase. And I'm reading right now. His name is Joel Moss. You can order this on Amazon right now. Great book. This is talking about all of the ways that you can look at things instead of taking things away from your life, things that you can add to your life. But the things that you add, they come after you delete all of the destructive things. You're replacing old stuff, inferior products that are going through your mind with something superior. He asks this question about freedom. What if you were unaffected by your past, healed and set free from hurts, wounds, and traumas? What if people's demands and expectations didn't influence you? What if you were free from guilt and shame? Jealousy, failure didn't haunt you? Or fear? What if lies planted in your mind didn't cloud your thinking and you saw things accurately? Other people, present circumstances, your future. Think about that. And think about freedom. Now, getting there might seem like a real challenge. Getting to a spot where it's like, whoa, I can't just control my thoughts like that. Actually, you can. Now, I've shared this in past vlogs before. And this is coming from somebody who was diagnosed bipolar in 2014 and was medicated for it for years. I got sick of the medication, and I always suspected that I could do some stuff with my mind where I learned how to overcome thoughts. And basically, I discovered that thoughts don't control me. I control my thoughts. And right now, if you don't know that, you're just running on autopilot. You're running according to what your thoughts and your feelings say, and then your mood is reflected based off of that. You are in a default a state of existence. And you can change your default. You can change it to where it operates off of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, and self-control. But it takes self-control to get there. It takes execution of thoughts, like where you're actually deleting them from your mind or pushing them out and replacing them with something better. You can do it. And I've shared a quick way that you can do that, at least that you can get used to doing it. You can get familiar with what it takes. I'm not going to say that it's going to work immediately, but if you keep practicing it over time, it will work. You'll find that you have more and more freedom in your thought life than what you ever thought that you had. Take 5 minutes, sit down, put on some music that you really like. Do something instrumental. Make yourself just listen to the music and see how long you can go just concentrating on that before a thought comes through your mind. A thought will come through your mind. That will happen. But when it does, the second that it does, be the observer of the thought instead of getting consumed by the thought. So the second that it comes by, no matter how important you might think that it is, that's your ego trying to tell you, hey, dude, you need to listen to me. Because this whole thing of not using your mind and just concentrating on something where I can't be a part of it and I can't speak into your life. Hey, I'm right here. Let's talk about something else that's important. Erase it. Slide right past it. Let it go past you. Get back into the music. Concentrate on it. Let the music fill your ears, your sound. And while you're doing that, you can close your eyes if it helps you to concentrate on it better, or you can then engage your eyes. While you're listening to the music, what are you looking at while you're listening to it? Are you looking at the front of a CD player? Are you looking at the front of a maybe you're looking at your TV because you're playing it on Spotify or something like that on your TV? Are you looking at your computer? And then add to that, what am I sitting on while I'm doing it? What do I feel? Concentrate on this moment right here. The second that you break free from thought and enter into this moment, the now, the present state of reality, the things that you're feeling and hearing and seeing, once you've concentrated on that, there is not room simultaneously for a thought to take the forefront. And the second that a thought does get your attention, move it out of the way. Get back to what you're doing. Even if you can do it for 1 second, one split second, you will have, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you see the ability to reject a thought and then get back to something else, that's something that you can't undo. You've now understood that you are able to. What's stopping you then from taking 1 second, turning it into 5 minutes? What's stopping that from going from 5 minutes to 5 hours, then to 5 days? What if you could do that for 5 years, where you have complete control over your thoughts? At that point, what do you want to think about? Do you want to think about being bitter? Do you want to think about guilt? Do you want to think about shame? Do you want to think about something that you're afraid of, that you're worried about, or that you're depressed by? Do you want to think that? Is that fun? Does that help your life to do that? Or what if instead you think about loving something, loving others, loving life itself, being grateful, and in that state of gratitude, thankfulness, of joy, of peace? What will you do with yourself? What kind of things would you get into? Who would you talk to? And what would that conversation look like? Maybe some of these relationships that you have that are just trash right now and you don't have any way around them. What happens if you introduce new thoughts and new virtues to instill new emotions into you? Will that change things? Will that change the way that you look at politics and the way that you look at somebody that is either on the left or on the right, depending on what your political identity is? Sacrifice it all. Sacrifice all of it. This is the stuff that is on the deepest level that we are capable of as humans of achieving, which is mastery over the way that we perceive reality itself. There's one more I'm going to read to you real quick. I'll be right back. I shared this on Facebook a couple days ago. Listen to this quote. It's from this book, As a Man Thinketh, by James Allen. So he says on it, on the back of the back cover, this is his quote: "All that a man achieves and that he fails to achieve is the direct result of his own thoughts. His condition is his own and not another man's. His suffering and his happiness are evolved from within. As he thinks, so he is. As he continues to think, so he remains." It's all about your thoughts. Contemplate on that. Be my friend on Facebook. Sign up to my YouTube channel, Darren Keim. You just search for my name, Keim. Search for me on there. My podcast is called The Naked Eye Media Podcast, and it's very sporadic when I actually release them, but I try to do it when I actually have something that I want to talk about, and also when I'm not being ruled by things such as fear or doubt about what my product is going to be. Instead, I'm being motivated by love for others and my desire to possibly use something that I can reach out to them with that might give them something to move forward into a better state of existence than where they are at. And I'm not saying that as somebody that's like, oh, what does he know? I've been through it. Like I said, medicated, bipolar, diagnosed by professional therapists. And I've been off of medication for almost 3 years now. And getting stronger every day in this new level of perceiving reality according to my terms. The me, the real me, the deep me, not the observer me that wants to introduce true feelings of happiness and fulfillment. Not being carried about like a ship on waves, being tossed about by emotions that I want nothing to do with. You can have that freedom. Look for that freedom. Until next time, I love you guys. I will see you again soon. Thank you so much.